Schuyler's maid, Agatha, busied herself by preparing a tea kettle. It had been quite some time since Rose had employed her to spy on Schuyler, but now, with Rose locked away, there was no one for her to report to. Not that there was much to report. Schuyler spent most of her days working for the court sorcerer, which meant Agatha had plenty of time to herself. In many ways, what had seemed a daunting assignment at first had turned out to be one of the easiest jobs she'd ever had. She placed the tea kettle over the fire and headed to a cabinet where various tea jars were arranged.
What would I like tonight?
Agatha shivered as she was struck by a sudden, cold gust of wind. She turned and saw the window, which had been shut a moment before, now swung open.
Damned wind.
She crossed to the window and looked out into the foul, stormy night.
It was a good night to be indoors, that's for sure. I catch my death out there.
Agatha shut the window. In the reflection of the glass, she saw a figure in a black executioner's mask looming behind her. Before she could scream, a rope fastened tight around her neck. Agatha flailed and fought, but could feel the darkness closing in at the edges of her vision. She struck at her attacker, but her blows became weaker and weaker. The kettle boiled, steam screaming out of it. Aldrich sat in his office, watching the flames in the hearth. The logs, which had been neatly stacked before the fire, had burned away at the base. They collapsed, sending embers curling up the flue. And so it goes. Your Majesty? Aldrich faced the door where the knight stood. Duke Elegy is here to see you. Shall I send him away? Aldrich stood. No, let him in. With a bow, the knight exited. Moments later, Duke Elegy strode into the room. Your Majesty, I do appreciate you taking the time to see me at such a late hour. I have something for you, Duke. Do you? Aldrich grabbed a paper from his desk, stomped toward Elegy, and shoved the paper into his hands. Here. Duke Elegy looked down. The document in his hands had a regal, official appearance. The port is yours. That paperwork confirms it. My king, I am honored beyond words to have received. If you are honored beyond words, then please spare me yours. You may have the port, but your presence in this palace will no longer be tolerated. Am I understood? Well, as it happens, Your Highness, I was coming here to say farewell. I've matters to attend to elsewhere, and will not likely return soon. I assure you, if ever you return, it will be too soon. Your Majesty, you are most fortunate that I do not take offense easily. It would be a shame if your merchant vessels were barred from my port. Aldrich scowled. This snake had only had the paperwork in hand for less than a minute, and already he was using his newfound gains as leverage. Before I go, I have something for you. Aldrich scoffed as Elegy reached into his leather satchel and produced a silver metal box with ornate gold detailing. The Duke extended the box to him. Aldrich eyed the object with suspicion, but took it. The box was roughly 10 inches on each side. Turning it over in his hands, Aldrich could find no seams, no way to open the thing. What is this? Some sort of puzzle? Of sorts. Good luck with it, and farewell. With a few quick strides, the Duke turned and was out of the office. Aldrich looked at the box again, then tossed it onto his desk. It landed heavily with a resonant clang. Aldrich sat down and stared into the fire once more. Despite the time of night, a carriage pulled up to the front of the palace. Viscount Langdale approached. When the door to the carriage opened, he was greeted by the beautiful sight of Lady Nadine. "My sweet!" Langdale helped Nadine out of the carriage and attempted to use his cape to shield her from the rain as best he could.
We were delayed by the storm. Our carriage nearly got stuck more than once. But I'm here now. How fares Queen Bronwyn and the other ladies? Have they managed all right without me?
She frowned at seeing Langdale's grave expression. "I suppose you do not know."
No what?
Langdale ushered Nadine out of the rain and under the overhang at the entrance to the palace. "There was an attack on Queen Bronwyn's life." Nadine gasped and brought her hands to her face in shock and horror. "Marquis' carriage jumped from one of the towers and onto the Queen to kill them both."
Is she?
"She's alive, but unconscious. She's been in that state for a few days now." Tears welled up in Nadine's eyes. She buried herself in Langdale's chest. He held her tight, stroking her hair and gently kissing her forehead. Unbeknownst to the couple kissing and comforting each other at the front of the palace, they were being watched. Duke Betha stood in one of the palace windows overlooking the entrance. He glowered at Nadine, his former wife, and Langdale, her lover. "It's a disgrace. It's an outrage to see my wife with that outlaw." It was true Duke Betha had been the one to seek a divorce with Nadine in the first place, but he had been deceived. "Rose, the witch that she was, twisted my mind. She made me believe that you had been unfaithful." He touched the glass longingly, watching as Nadine was led out of his line of sight by Langdale. "Langdale turned you against me. We'll make that criminal pay. We'll make him pay dearly." The Duke pounded the glass with a ferocity that threatened to break it. Nadine entered Bronwyn's room, head bowed. Though the rain had washed away her tears, her red eyes betrayed that she'd been crying. Matilda looked up from beside the bed and hurried to Nadine. They wrapped one another in a warm hug. Viscount Langdale, who was standing in the doorway, stepped back out into the corridor to give the women their private moment together.
Skylar says her condition is improving.
Nadine and Matilda turned their attentions to Skylar, whose hand, radiating magic in an amber glow, hovered above Bronwyn's brow. The magical healing produced a low, steady humming sound with a comforting quality.
Her body has almost completely healed from the ordeal. Then why does she not wake? I cannot say for certain.
Skylar offered an encouraging smile, fighting the doubt inside her. What if Bronwyn never awoke? Skylar had heard of patients who, after sustaining injuries to the head, were in a state of sleep until their dying day. Would this be Bronwyn's fate? Skylar removed her hand from above Bronwyn's head.
That should be enough for now. Would either of you like some tea? Yes, thank you.
Skylar nodded and exited the room.
Is it strange for you to be back here? Oh yes, it's very strange. Of course, the current circumstances only make the situation feel more surreal. I never thought I would see her like this. Like what? Powerless. The Queen has had challenge after challenge thrown at her, but she's always managed to overcome, to push through by cunning, by strength of will. But now there's nothing she can do. Yes, if she were alone, she would be powerless. But she is not alone. There's great power in friendship, and the Queen has many friends.
Matilda gave Nadine a confident smile.
We will get her through this.
Nadine nodded and smiled back as more tears fell from her eyes. Skylar's screams echoed down the corridor, sending an immediate chill down their spines.
Skylar?
Aldrich, accompanied by several knights and Viscount Langdell, marched towards Skylar's room. His eyes landed on the young woman, who stood shivering with fright outside her room. Nadine and Matilda stood beside her, pale and in shock. Aldrich put an arm on Skylar's shoulder. "Are you all right?"
I'm unarmed.
Aldrich nodded. He turned to one of the knights. "Take her to the kitchen and tell the staff to prepare her anything she asks for. Anything at all." One of the knights nodded and escorted Skylar down the corridor. Matilda and Nadine followed behind. "Shall we?" Viscount Langdell opened the door to Skylar's room. Aldrich stepped inside. Aldrich entered slowly. He stopped at the gruesome sight before him. Dear gods! Hanging from a beam in the center of the room was Agatha. Her face, swollen and purple from strangulation, was frozen in an expression of utter terror. "Suicide?" "No, Your Majesty. There are signs of a struggle. That chair by the open window was knocked over. There are also scuff marks on the floor from her shoes, and muddy boot marks as well." Aldrich approached the body, putting out a hand to stop her swinging in the breeze. "Close the window." The Viscount did as commanded. Aldrich noticed a piece of parchment pinned to the hem of Agatha's dress. He snatched the parchment and read from it. "The time of the royals has ended. Death comes to the palace, to the king, to the nobles, and to anyone who aids these vermin in their crimes against humanity. The common man will rise to avenge Elisaria. Signed, the Veiled Hands." To his left was a pile of books he'd already gone through, and to his right was a formidable stack of books he had yet to read. The doors to the library opened. Aldrich looked up as Count Perdue entered. "Close the doors." Perdue shut the doors behind him and approached. "You called for me, Your Majesty?" "You were right to warn me about the Veiled Hands." "The whispers have grown louder, my king." Aldrich shook his head. "They're far more than whispers now. They killed one of our maids last night and left this." Aldrich held out the piece of parchment containing the threat to the royals, the nobility, and anyone under the employ of such people. "But why kill a maid?" "I believe they thought she was Skylar, the sorceress in training. It happened in her room. Many believe she's my second concubine. Then again, their threat casts a pretty wide net. Killing a maid emphasizes that nobody in the palace is safe." Count Perdue nodded, swallowing hard. Though he tried to keep his expression neutral, the fear in his eyes was evident. "I've combed through history books all morning, searching for any reference to the Veiled Hands." "Have you found anything?" "There are only a few references to the antiquated practice of forcing outcast women to cover their hands in white gloves." "Oh, yes, I have heard of this. They weren't allowed to change gloves, and the gloves' filthiness symbolized the stain on their honor. Barbaric sort of practice, really." The two men stared off in silence, thinking. Finally, Count Perdue shook his head. "I am sorry, Your Majesty, but I must say I'm at a loss for what the connection might be." "As am I. There may be no connection. Two separate things can share a name, can they not? Still, it's worth considering." Aldrich stood and stretched his sore back. He'd been hunched reading since the early morning hours. "I need you to head into town to the Hall of Records. Search for any documents pertaining to previous rebellions. Keep an eye out for references to the Veiled Hands." "I shall do so at once, Your Majesty." With a short bow, Count Perdue hurried out of the library. Duke Betha slid past Perdue and into the room just before the doors could shut. "Duke Betha, what are you doing here? I did not summon you." "No, Your Majesty. I came of my own accord." "Well, you're here now. What is it you want? Speak." "I come regarding payment for my capture of Rose." "You'll have your crown soon enough." "That's what I was hoping to negotiate." "You won't get any more than what was promised." "It's not more that I'm after. I was hoping I might forego monetary compensation in favor of something else." Aldrich let out a heavy sigh and crossed to the window. Why couldn't this man see he had no time for petty bargaining? "Take it up with Perdue when he returns." "Perdue can't give me what I want." "I tire of these riddles. Out with it, man. What do you want?" "Viscount Langdell's head." Aldrich blinked, the request catching him so completely off guard that he took several seconds to process it. After waiting for an answer from Aldrich which did not come, Duke Betha continued. "If I have his head, I will consider your debt with me satisfied." "My debt?" "Well, what I mean to say is I will not ask for anything more." "No." "But, Your Majesty—" "The answer is no." Duke Betha shook his head, quaking with emotion. "This man made a mockery of me. He destroyed my honor, seduced my wife." "Spare me." "I need justice." Aldrich grabbed one of the heavy tomes and threw it on the ground. "You are not the only man on this earth to have chased away his wife." His statement hung in the air around them. With a deep inhale, Aldrich fought to regain some semblance of composure. "Why do you think it is that I have not already locked up Viscount Langdell? He was sentenced to death before his escape, as I'm sure you recall. I care not for that man, but he is a member of the supranational Knights. Any act against him would be tantamount to committing a war crime against the Wall Continent Alliance." "I see. Your hands are tied." "Yes. Now go." With a dismissive wave, Aldrich sat back down and commenced reading again. Duke Betha stood paralyzed for a moment longer, then turned and rushed out of the room. Duke Betha fumed, mumbling to himself. "Oh, all right, my king. Your hands may be tied, but mine are not." For Liliana, it was a strange thing to wander the Rothescue estate. Knowing her brother wasn't about to tap her on the shoulder and ruffle her hair, or that her father couldn't be heard limping around his office, or that the butler would approach to ask what she'd like for lunch. Strangest of all, perhaps, was the absence of Isidore. Not long ago, his giggling would echo down the halls, and his cries would shake the very rafters. The absence of these sounds made the quietude of the space all the more oppressive.
Hello?
She knew nobody would answer, but her echoing voice gave the illusion of someone else being in the home, if only for a moment. She eventually made her way to Rothescue's office.
Father never let me in here. I don't think he'll mind it this time.
After her conversation with Rose in the prison, a nagging thought continued eating away at Liliana. It had to do with something she'd remembered reading in publications after the princess's birth. She knew her father often kept publications, especially those pertaining to Rose.
Where are they?
She pored over stacks of papers, but most were complicated financial documents that she couldn't begin to comprehend.
I'll never know how Father spent so much time doing paperwork like this.
The easiest documents to follow were ones detailing errands assigned to her brother. Alan often needed things spelled out simply. Otherwise, he'd be liable to make a mistake. Often, Rothescue used him to deliver things to third parties that could not be trusted. She found a record of one particular errand in which Alan had been sent away to Palm for over a month.
That was right after Rose escaped. Alan was inconsolable, and Isidore was so tiny. The servants had to look after him while Alan was away. I remember thinking how stressful life was back then. I didn't know it could get worse.
Liliana shook her head at her own naivety. She had grown much since then. Finally, after hours of searching, she found the stack of publications. She flipped through them until she got to the article announcing Princess Beatrice's birth.
Here we are. Yes, here's what I was trying to remember. The princess was born prematurely.
A spark of inspiration struck Liliana. She grabbed the paperwork on which her father had documented Alan's journey to Palm.
I may not know who Beatrice's father is, but now I have proof that he isn't Alan. He was in Palm when Beatrice was conceived.
Skylar sat on the edge of Kaya's bed. Kaya, who was feeling much improved, sat up. The two had been talking like this for some time, with Skylar recounting her adventure of sneaking into the estate office and trying to steal the document with her parents' information.
But it's gone. I lost the papers when I was running out. But you didn't lose everything. You have their initials. What can I do with those? I can tell you what I'd do. And what is that? Look for a registry of nobles and pick out any that match. There will likely be dozens, maybe 100, who could have either MS or WS as their initials. Maybe dozens of individuals, but you're looking for a pairing. True. I was just so frustrated with myself for losing the pages, and I suppose I hadn't been thinking clearly.
Skylar looked at Kaya and smiled.
You're doing much better. You've been sitting up for almost an hour. And I don't feel like I need to lie down, in fact.
Kaya threw off her blankets and put her feet on the ground.
I feel like going for a walk around the room. Are you sure?
Kaya stood.
Look at you go. Feel as though I could walk the length of the palace gardens.
Kaya's smile faltered as her steps became suddenly unsteady. She tumbled forward, but Skylar caught her. For a brief moment, their faces were mere inches from one another. In that slim window of time, Skylar recognized for the first time the beauty of Kaya's eyes, the fullness of her lips, and the softness of her skin.
Let me help you get back to bed.
Skylar guided Kaya to the bed and helped her back under the covers. Only when Skylar went to stand did she realize Kaya was still holding onto her hand. The two of them blushed and let their hands fall away. In the moonlit forest, the bandits' hideout entrance loomed before Oscar and Cedrica, surrounded in shadows. But as they approached, their stillness was shattered by the sudden appearance of the bandit. "What do we have here?" Oscar and Cedrica, cornered, prepared for the impending confrontation. The bandit put his hand on his belt and took a dagger from its sheath. "Lost your way, have you?" With a swift movement, the bandit lunged, initiating a fierce fight. "Stay behind me!" Oscar faced the bandit, his sword unsheathed, ready to engage. The forest echoed with the symphony of clashing weapons, a chaotic dance beneath the moonlit canopy. "Do you think you can defy the Eternal Thousand? Foolish!" Oscar's movements were precise, each strike calculated, yet the bandit proved a formidable adversary. Cedrica, feeling the urgency, moved to join the fight. The battle intensified, the clashing of steel reverberating through the night. "Your death is inevitable." Despite the bandit's taunts, Oscar fought with unwavering determination, each stroke a testament to his skill. But suddenly, the bandit, seizing an opportunity, disarmed Oscar, sending his sword flying. In Oscar and Cedrica's momentary distraction, the bandit grabbed Cedrica and held his knife to her throat. "Cedrica!" In a sudden, elaborate twist, Cedrica had spun the bandit over her shoulder, piercing the blade through his own belly. "Ah! You'll regret this! Men! Men!" With a fierce resolve, Oscar and Cedrica fled the scene, leaving the incapacitated bandit behind. "We need to move quickly." As they disappeared into the depths of the dark forest, the echoes of the bandits' roars lingered in the night, a testament to the intensity of their encounter. Oscar and Cedrica, breathless from their escape, found a hidden spot to catch their breath. Cedrica and Oscar hid behind a deep-rooted tree. "Where in the name of the Celestial Isles did you learn that?" Cedrica, still catching her breath, looked sheepishly at Oscar.
"Oh, just a little trick of mine."
Oscar's eyes widened with curiosity. "A trick? You moved unlike any man I've ever seen."
"That's because you compare me to men."
Oscar was in awe and gaped at Cedrica, wondering if her surprises would ever run out. "Your secret's safe with me."
"We couldn't need to use all the tricks up our sleeves. The Eternal Thousand is more powerful than I anticipated."
They exchanged a solemn glance, realizing the gravity of the situation. "We need to return to the Celestial Isles and gather more manpower."
"Agreed, but
Cedrica hesitated, glancing at a tear in her clothes just at her breast.
Could you turn around for a moment? I must have cut myself accidentally."
Oscar, a hint of a smile playing on his lips, turned away.
"I don't have a way to fix this."
Oscar turned around with his eyes closed. "I assure you I don't."
"Oscar!"
"My eyes are closed." He handed Cedrica his coat to cover herself, creating an intimate moment. "We make for the Celestial Isles immediately. We need to prepare for what's to come." Oscar and Cedrica set out on their journey, the night concealing both the dangers and the possibilities that awaited them. Gripped by a growing unease, King Aldrich paced his chamber like a caged beast. "Count Perdue, what updates are there about the Veiled Hands and their leader?" "Your Majesty, I bring unsettling updates." Aldrich's eyes bore into Count Perdue, demanding answers. "Speak." "A man in Elisaria's town square claimed to be a member of the Veiled Hands, Cedric Grimwald. The Whispers have christened him the Shadow's Spawn." Aldrich's expression twisted in confusion and dread, his mind grappling with the nightmarish title. Shadow's Spawn? A wretched moniker for a wretched soul. Count Perdue inhaled deeply before continuing. "He is a ghastly figure. His eyes were piercing and unnatural, and his limbs contorted in ways that defy the laws of man. We were sure we had found our leader." Consumed by fear, Aldrich gripped his desk's arms as if it were his only tether to reality. "The Shadow's Spawn is currently confined in the dungeon. We believed him to be the leader, but further investigation revealed a sick man ensnared in a conspiracy." Aldrich's eyes narrowed, his mind processing the unsettling information. "A pawn, then. The true puppeteer eludes us. The Veiled Hands are a contagion, spreading fear and chaos. Ordinary people are being swayed, as are our country's most unstable, and our kingdom teeters on the brink." As Count Perdue began to leave the chamber, Aldrich's urgency clawed at him, a deeper concern surfacing. "Wait, Count. We cannot let the Veiled Hands gain control, especially before Bronwyn wakes from her tormented slumber. She has already suffered enough under my watch. I won't allow her to endure more pain. We must extinguish this rebellion. She cannot awaken to a kingdom in chaos." "Rest assured, every effort will be made to safeguard her and Elisaria from the encroaching darkness." Aldrich, haunted by the weight of his crown and the spectre of a rebellion, clenched his fists in a silent oath to protect the kingdom and the woman who held his fractured heart. The dungeon's damp, cold air seeped into every corner as Alan paced nervously. Viscount Rothescue, seated on a stone bench, looked at his son with a familiar harshness in his eyes, framed dimly by the wavering light from the lit torch on the wall outside of their cells.
"Sit down, Alan, I beg you. Your footsteps provide me with nothing but insanity."
"Father, why? Why were you always so cold to me?"
"Why does it matter now, boy? We're trapped in this wretched place, and you're seeking answers?"
"I've never understood. I tried so hard to earn your love, but it was always out of reach."
"Love is a weakness, Alan. I taught you that for your own damn good."
"But I needed you, Father. I needed love. I need it now."
Viscount Rothescue, growing impatient, glared at Alan.
"You always were weak. Love didn't protect your mother, did it?"
Alan, hurt by the mention of his mother, took a deep breath. He wiped the tears from his face.
"I'd rather be weak with love than strong with bitterness."
Rothescue, taken aback by Alan's unexpected retort, studied his son's face.
"And what would you know of love, boy?"
"More than you think. I remember the man you used to be, the man who loved my mother."
Viscount Rothescue's stern facade cracked for a moment. and he sighed.
That man is gone. The world took him away when it took your mother.
But she wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want us to be prisoners of our own bitterness. We are already prisoners without it.
Damn it, boy, what do you want from me?
A chance for us to heal, Father. A chance to forgive.
The torches flickered as a heavy silence hung in the air. But there was a glimmer of something soft in Viscount Rothescue's eyes.
I've done unspeakable things, Alan. To you, to others. I can't change the past.
But we can choose a different future. If we make it out of here, we'll make amends. For Isadore's sake.
You have a family now, Alan. A son. He mustn't endure what you did. If you survive this, do better than I did. Be better. For Isidore.
Yes, Father.
As they sat side by side, separated by iron bars, the weight of the past and the hope for the future merged in a poignant moment. The dungeon, though oppressive, became a crucible for redemption. Reginald, alone in his dimly lit cell, carefully tied a small parchment to the leg of a bat, an unexpected ally in this desolate place. After years in the dungeon, he learned to rely on the creatures hiding in dark corners to communicate with the other prisoners. He had long promised them that their time would come. That time was now, and he needed to gather his men.
Fly swift, my friend. Deliver hope to those who crave it.
The bat, a tiny harbinger of rebellion, fluttered into the dark corridors of the dungeon, carrying Reginald's message. Guided by instinct, the bat weaved through the labyrinthine passages of the dungeon, dodging cobwebs and flickering torchlight. A faint scratching sound drew the attention of menacing prisoners. The bat gracefully landed on a barred window, carrying Reginald's message.
What does it say?
The prisoners, a clandestine group known for their menacing demeanor, gathered around as one of them unraveled the parchment.
Awaken, comrades of the shadows. A reckoning approaches. The Queen shall be our ally. Ready yourselves for the night of liberation. Together we rise.
Let them underestimate us. We'll show them true fear as we dismantle the very foundations of their privileged existence. And those noble vultures who put us here, we'll carve our revenge into their flesh. Oh, they'll beg for mercy, won't they? We'll extract every drop of agony they deserve.
The dungeons won't contain us any longer. Let the blood of our oppressors flow.
The message ignited a spark in their eyes, and a silent nod passed among them. Their years of imprisonment were soon to come to an end. This much they understood. And they would take control. Meanwhile, A satisfied smile spread across Reginald's face, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes as the message spread through the dungeon like water through a funnel.
Soon, my comrades, we shall rise together. Rose, it's happening. The plan is in motion. The Queen's imprisonment is the catalyst we've been waiting for.
But tell me more. What's the plan? How will it unfold?
Details are better kept in the shadows, my dear. Trust me. Our allies have cooked up something that will send tremors through these stone walls. There are forces stronger than us that will be our protectors when the time comes.
And what's my part in this grand spectacle?
Your role is crucial. Use your charm, Rose, and weave your web. The guards, your visitors, they won't see it coming until it's too late.
I crave it, the crumbling of their high and mighty walls. But what if it consumes us too?
Our allies have contingencies. The chaos will be calculated and controlled. We won't be swallowed by it. A freedom where we dictate our fates awaits us, where we won't be prisoners to the whims of the powerful. Just imagine, Rose, a world where we are the masters of our destiny.
A new beginning. Power is a feast, and I've been starving for too long. Let chaos reign, Reginald, and watch as we feast upon the ruins.
Suddenly, a soft, sinister voice echoed from Rose's precious doll.
The shadows dance, and the puppeteer grins. A dark queen emerges from the abyss, ready to claim her dominion.
Rose's eyes widened, and her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the magic doll, her mind racing.
Did it really speak, or has the loneliness finally driven me mad?
Reginald reached into his pocket and produced an egg-sized, beautiful, ruby-red stone. He passed the stone between the bars to Rose.
Take hold of this, my dear. Keep it close.
Rose held on to the stone, hypnotized by the moonlight's glint off the surface. Duke Betha stood with a stern face and an imposing stature outside of Bronwyn's room. He had just been to see her and was unsettled by what he found in her bed. He didn't always agree with Bronwyn's actions, but she was strong. To see her so out of control was disturbing to him. He was lost in thought when Viscount Langdale arrived to pay the former Elisarian queen a visit. They stared at each other momentarily, tension hanging heavy in the air.
Langdale?
Betha? Fate has a twisted sense of humor. They exchanged wary glances and stood stiffly, each waiting for the other to put the unresolved resentment they shared into words.
Are you going to move from in front of the door, or must I go through you?
Once again seeking to take my place?
Bitterness does not look good on you, Betha. Your wife needed freedom. I gave it to her. It is as simple as that.
You took more than my wife that day, Langdale. You took a piece of my honor.
And you took the love that she willingly gave, only to reject it. Don't forget your role in this tragedy.
You speak of love as if it justifies betrayal.
I don't expect you to understand, Betha, but we are in Elisaria for a reason that transcends our personal histories. The kingdom is hanging by a thread, and we both have stakes in its fate. As deep as they run, our grievances should be set aside for the greater good. Duke Betha smirked and allowed the weight of Langdale's words to settle. Langdale offered an olive branch, which Betha knew he could use to deceive Langdell if he so wanted to.
For the kingdom, then, not for you or me.
Agreed. There are larger battles ahead. We do not have to be friends if we wanted to.
For the kingdom, then, not for you or me.
Agreed. There are larger battles ahead. We do not have to be friends, but we do not have to be enemies. Duke Betha stepped aside and squared his shoulders.
Langdell, our past won't be easily forgotten.
Viscount Langdell looked away. Nor should it be. And with that, Duke Betha walked away, and Viscount Langdell visited the former queen. The Royal Elisarian Castle's massive silhouette loomed against the night sky, the moon casting an eerie glow on its towers and turrets. Hidden in the shadows, Haxon observed from a concealed vantage point, his keen eyes catching the subtle shift in the air as King Henry emerged from the castle. Haxon, ever vigilant, had grown suspicious of the king's nocturnal activities. A shadow in the shadows, he discreetly followed Henry, silently weaving through the passageways unnoticed by his king and cousin. A silent shadow, he trailed the king through arched hallways and dimly lit passages, his suspicions growing with every step. As they ventured deeper into the castle's recesses, Haxon's sharp instincts told him this was no ordinary nocturnal stroll. The journey led them to a secluded courtyard bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. Haxon positioned himself behind a cluster of thick shrubbery, peering through the leaves with a watchful eye. Through the veil of foliage, Haxon witnessed the king's clandestine meeting with a hooded figure. Their murmured conversation, obscured by the natural symphony of the night, gave Haxon no insight into who this person was or why the king was meeting with them secretly. He felt a pit in his stomach, somehow sure that whatever this meeting was, it was not something the king was proud of. He strained to interpret the unspoken language shared between Henry and the mysterious companion. The conspiratorial gestures and subtle nods, juxtaposed with the night's canvas, created an enigma that demanded unraveling.
Planted. Rose.
What?
But only certain words came through to Haxon's hiding spot.
Planted rose?
Suddenly, there was a strong gust of wind, and the figure's hood slipped off his head. Beneath the cloak stood Duke Elegy. Haxon's eyes widened in realization. His breath caught, suspended between duty and the unsettling revelation that the king consorted with shadows.
Breaking our pact!
Duke Elegy. What treacherous pact has the king woven in the tapestry of the night?
Haxon's inner monologue intensified as he grappled with loyalty and the realization that he knew even less about King Henry than he originally thought. There were roots beneath the surface of the country that he had no knowledge of, and that was the most terrifying part of all of it. He continued to eavesdrop, his heightened senses attuned to every syllable carried by the wind. Henry and Duke Elegy continued their mysterious discussion, oblivious to Haxon's stealthy pursuit. The night cloaked him in secrecy, but not them. Suddenly, a twig snapped under Haxon's foot, the sound echoing in the quiet courtyard. Henry and Duke Elegy both turned sharply in Haxon's direction, suspicion clouding their faces.
Shadows take me.
Henry clenched the hilt of his concealed dagger, prepared to eliminate whoever might have gotten insight into their conversation. What they were discussing must be quite sinister, Haxon thought. The night held its breath, an accomplice to the silent standoff, as Haxan teetered on the precipice of discovery. Haxan, concealed in the shadows, observed as King Henry and Duke Elegy cautiously approached the shrubbery he was hiding behind. He held his breath in his throat, hoping to the gods that something would distract them.
Who's there? Show yourself!
The command resonated through the stillness, prompting Haxan to evaluate his options. As they ventured further, the moonlight painted a delicate glow on Henry's puzzled expression and Duke Elegy's stern countenance.
We know you're here.
Haxan weighed the consequences of his next move. Silence could be his ally, but it was a fragile one. The urgency in their voices spurred him to make a choice.
Enough games! Show yourself or face the consequences!
The shadows clung to him like a protective cloak as the distance closed between Haxan and the two nobles. The choice was made. Haxan chose to run. A chase erupted with sudden intensity. Haxan, propelled by the adrenaline surging through his veins, bolted away from his concealed vantage point. The pursuit wove through moonlit clearings and darkened alcoves, each twist and turn escalating the tension. The palace gardens transformed into a battleground where secrets and pursuits collided. The men cast long, fleeting shadows in the moonlight, dancing to the rhythm of the chase. Haxan's breaths echoed in the night air as he sprinted, navigating the maze with nimble agility. The cold sweat of apprehension trickled down his spine as Henry and Duke Elegy, fueled by the urgency of their pursuit, closed in with relentless determination. Duke Elegy shot his hand forward, and a seemingly invisible blast launched, blowing a chunk of a pillar clean off. The chase reached its crescendo, each heartbeat marking a step closer to discovery. Haxan, darting towards a hidden passage he had no idea how he knew about, disappeared into the shadows, leaving the palace garden shrouded in stillness, except for Henry and Elegy's panting breaths. He pressed his back against the cool stone, the echoes of pursuit fading into the distant night. The murmur of frustrated voices reached him from above, a reassuring indication that the palace gardens held no trace of his escape.
They cannot be far. Search every corner. His knowledge could endanger our plans.
Haxan, reassured by their fading voices, took a moment to regain composure. He knew that his actions tonight had unraveled a thread of secrecy, and the consequences could be profound. He knew that he wouldn't be safe in this form for long. If he knew Henry, he knew he wouldn't give up the chase. And there was no point in Haxan revealing himself to the night without Henry catching him. He swiftly transformed into his silver avian alias, a form where he could more discreetly find his way to safety and shelter. He tore through the night air, knowing Henry and Elegy would not search the sky for their culprit. But he underestimated Henry, who, out of the corner of his eye, saw a silver wing glimmering in the moonlight. Oscar and Cedrica stormed into the Celestial Isle's grand throne room, the urgency evident in their eyes.
Oscar, you're back!
Oscar, focused on the impending danger, remained determined.
Charlotte, I must report my findings immediately. There's a dire situation in our country, in our world.
Can't it wait? You've been away for far too long. We could spend time together.
Oscar, prioritizing duty, rebuked her with a stern tone.
This is urgent, Charlotte. Lives are at stake. Duty comes first.
Charlotte's excitement shifted to anger as Oscar prioritized his responsibilities over her desires. Charlotte's eyes turned to Cedrica.
Is that your coat, Oscar? We've discovered a grave threat. We must act swiftly to gather our forces. I'm sure one of my seamstresses can sew you something for a woman of your stature. You don't have to wear my husband's clothes.
I'm not your husband. Charlotte put her hand on Oscar's arm gently.
Not yet.
Excuse us, Charlotte. This is not the time for trivial matters.
Trivial? You parade around with this woman, and you call our marriage trivial? I've never even seen someone more trivial in my life than this warrior woman. You are a woman, aren't you?
Cedrica is a skilled warrior, and she's proven herself countless times. We need to focus on the impending threat, not on petty insults. Cedrica, though her eyes filled with tears, maintained her composure.
This coat was just a precaution, Charlotte. We're in a hurry.
Charlotte, however, glared at Cedrica, jealousy fueling her anger.
Precaution? It seemed more like intimacy to me.
Oscar lost his temper, his voice booming through the hall. Enough, Charlotte! This is about the safety of our kingdom. Stop letting your insecurities blind you to the real danger, and get out of our way! Charlotte stared at him, slack-jawed, as Oscar barreled past her. Cedrica, too stunned to speak, stayed where she stood. Oscar returned, and Charlotte's eyes glimmered with hope, but Oscar only returned to take Cedrica's hand. Please, my lady, join me. Liliana cradled Isidore in her arms, gently singing a lullaby. The child fidgeted uneasily. He was once such an easy baby, but now, since Alan had left, he was rarely comfortable and often fussing.
There, my sweet Isidore. Papa will be back soon.
Isidore's innocent eyes, usually full of wonder, now held an unsettling gaze. He stared at something unseen, and Liliana sensed an unspoken disturbance.
Are you all right, my love?
Darkness.
What, love?
Everywhere.
Liliana was not sure how to respond. It was almost as if the boy was dreaming, but he appeared wide awake. It's just the absence of Alan, she told herself. He's missing his father, that's all. But she gulped uncomfortably. Isidore fidgeted.
Dark Lady whispers and tells secrets.
What did you say, Isidore?
Papa's secrets. Secrets in the dark.
A shiver ran down Liliana's spine. Isidore's words were like a sinister echo in the quiet room.
Isidore, sweetheart, there's no dark lady. It's just your imagination.
But Isidore's gaze remained fixed on an unseen presence, and Liliana's fear deepened. Desperate for answers, she clutched a small pendant, a family heirloom around her neck.
Guide me. Protect us. What is afflicting my sweet Isidore?
The room became still as Liliana searched for a way to unravel the mystery that had taken hold of her nephew. Unbeknownst to her, the unseen influence tightened its grip on young Isidore.
The shadows are hungry, Aunt Lily. They hunger for the kingdom's fall.
Isidore, please. You must tell me. What shadows? What secrets? I beg you, my love, don't speak in riddles. Help me understand.
Liliana's plea hung in the air. A desperate plea for a revelation that could make sense of the unsettling situation. The room seemed to close in on her, and Isidore plastered a smile onto his face. Liliana shuddered.
Isidore, my heart, look at me. I need to know what you're talking about. Whose secrets? Papa's? Shadows in the dark? What does it mean?
Isidore's grin widened, the innocence that once adorned his face replaced by an unsettling knowing. Liliana could feel a chill creeping up her spine, her maternal instincts in a desperate battle with the ominous force that seemed to envelop her nephew. She had heard about whispers of dark magic that can possess the innocent, but she never believed them.
Tell me it's not true, my sweet boy.
Isidore's gaze, fixated on something in the distance, didn't waver. Liliana clutched the pendant, a lifeline to a past untouched by such malevolent forces. She looked behind her, but all she saw was her own reflection in the window overlooking the garden. She turned back to Isidore, and then back to the window. Her reflection was as clear as the moon, but he wasn't there. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. No Isidore.
The roots are planted. She will not be betrayed. She keeps her promises.
Who, Isidore? Who whispers to you? What promises?
The room echoed with Liliana's desperate pleas. Isidore's words lingered like a haunting prophecy. Liliana's anguish filled the room as Isidore's words became even more cryptic. The air seemed eerie, and Liliana's grip on the pendant tightened, seeking solace and protection.
Aunt Lily, where's Papa? I'm sleepy.
A profound shift occurred in an instant. Isidore's eyes, just glazed and distant a moment ago, now held the innocence of a tired child. Stunned and bewildered, Liliana cradled him as he nestled against her, seemingly oblivious to the cryptic words he had uttered just moments before.
Isidore, my love, what just happened?
The event left Liliana with a chilling fear and uncertainty. The shadows retreated, leaving behind a child innocent, falling into slumber, and a bewildered aunt questioning the boundary between reality and the inexplicable.
Just a dream, just a dream, just a dream.
Aldrich sat alone at the large table in the dining hall, ruminating over the recent threats, not just to himself or the nobility, but to Elisaria itself. A servant poured wine as the food was placed before the unhappy king. As Aldrich stared at the small, roasted, headless bird, a disquieting thought occurred to him. Could he trust the food he was given? The veiled hands had already made it into the palace more than once. But what if they had never left? Or worse, what if they had been here the whole time? They could be anywhere, perhaps in the servants' quarters, one of the towers, or even in the kitchen. Aldrich stopped one of the servants, who was preparing to leave. What is this? Cooked pheasant, Your Majesty. Tell me, does it look to you as though it has been prepared with the usual methods? I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I'm not sure I understand. Does it appear normal to you? Your Majesty, to be quite honest, it seems to me better than normal. The cooks prepared it with extra care. Extra care. I see. Since you admire it, would you do me the honor of taking the first bite? The servant's eyes widened. In all his years working under Aldrich, he had never been asked to eat from the king's plate, nor could he remember any other servant being given such a strange request. Yet he could not refuse. If you wish me to, my king, then I shall. Aldrich cut a slice from the bird and handed the forkful of meat over to the servant. Though Aldrich knew there were royal tasters under his employ, he could not guarantee that they hadn't been compromised. The servant took a bite, and Aldrich watched him carefully. He paused his chewing, and a strange look came over his face. Aldrich sat up. Had he been right to be suspicious? Was the food poisoned? Is something the matter? The servant shook his head and swallowed. No, Your Majesty. Only, begging your pardon, it is the best pheasant I've ever eaten. Very good. That will be all. The servant bowed and made his way out of the large room. Aldrich brooded and poked at the meal before him, suspicious despite the servant having taken a bite unscathed. The servant may be fine now, but perhaps it is a slow-acting poison. Aldrich snapped his finger and gestured for one of the knights at the edge of the room to approach. My king, check up on that man throughout the day and report back to me. If he shows any signs of illness, or if anything should happen to him, I must know immediately. Understood, Your Majesty. It shall be done. The knight marched out of the room. Servants and cooks have a sort of anonymity. An intruder could easily blend in with their number. Palace guards cannot be trusted either. Had not that madman, Marquis Kerridge, bribed guards into permitting his entrance onto the tower from which he plummeted onto Bronwyn and Sir Artemis? And nobles. There are none that I can truly call my friend, save, perhaps, Count Perdue. I had trusted Baron Lant, and that was a mistake. There are times I miss the loyalty of Marquis Carlson, but... Aldrich clenched his fists, remembering his violent outburst and the look of fear and betrayal in Carlson's eyes as life left him. Aldrich pounded the table to break this line of thoughts. No, I cannot think of him. What's done is done. Carlson is dead, and Lant is a traitor. Duke Betha is unreliable and grows more unhinged by the day. His jealousy over Lady Nadine and her love of Viscount Langdale has overtaken him. And the Viscount, well, he certainly has a grudge against me for sentencing him to death. It is not an easy thing to forgive. Aldrich's thoughts turned to Bronwyn and Henry. I can trust Bronwyn. Though our paths have diverged, I know she would never conspire against me or Elisaria. And her faith in King Henry seems absolute. Though I despise him, maybe I can trust him. Aldrich shook his head, his expression souring at the thought. He did not want to believe he could count Henry as an ally. Your Majesty? Yes? The young sorceress, Skylar, requests an audience with you. I will see her in my office. And tell the servants I'm finished. Aldrich pushed away the plate of food, uneaten save for the servant's one bite. Aldrich paced in front of the hearth as Skylar stood before him. I am sorry for the loss of your maid.
It is for my maid, Agatha, that I come before you now.
Aldrich stopped his pacing. He raised an eyebrow.
I want to avenge her. I want to kill those responsible.
When you discovered her body, did you observe the note that had been attached to the hem of her dress?
I did, Your Majesty.
So you know of the veiled hands?
Only what their note communicated. They claimed to act on behalf of the commoners and planned to kill those within the palace, including you, Your Majesty.
Aldrich nodded. He glanced at the fire, debating whether to reveal all that he knew to Schuyler. The young woman was dear to Bronwyn, and Bronwyn was dear to her. And it was her maid who had fallen victim to this treacherous group. Yes, maybe he could trust her. Tell me, why should I turn to you in these matters and not the court sorcerer?
The court sorcerer is very wise. I have learned much working at his side. He commands respect and deserves it, but...
Yes? Schuyler pressed her lips together, wanting to say more, but afraid to do so. Finally, she let it out.
I am a more powerful sorcerer.
Aldrich eyed the young mage, impressed. That is a bold claim.
Yes, Your Highness, and I do not make it lightly.
It seems not so long ago that your powers had abandoned you completely. Now I am to believe your abilities have surpassed that of our most valued mage.
Since restoring my powers, I have felt an exponential increase in magic flowing through me. It is as if the dam, which had held my powers at bay, cracked and splintered, allowing more magic to pour through. Now that dam has broken.
Is this provable? Have you tested the limits of your skills? Schuyler looked aside, a little embarrassed.
Not yet, Your Majesty. In truth, I am afraid to do so.
So how can you know that what you're telling me is fact? That this dam, as you say, has broken?
Because I can feel it. It is nearly impossible to describe to those to people that...
Do not wield magic. Schuyler nodded. I think you are mistaken in claiming not to have tested your ability. I saw for myself the injuries which Bronwyn and Sir Artemis sustained. I do not doubt that without your intervention, they would have died. At this thought, sorrow flickered across Aldrich and Schuyler's faces.
The Queen is strong.
That does not change the fact that she lives because of you. I do not know if you are as powerful as you claim, but I know that you are gifted and that you are clever. I shall, therefore, accept your help in the matter of thwarting the Veiled Hands. Schuyler smiled, her eyes watery with pride.
I will do all that I can to be of service.
Aldrich approached his desk. He grabbed the stone on his desk. You know of one threatening note, but that was not the first message. I had received this before Agatha's murder. Aldrich handed Schuyler the stone. As Schuyler held the stone, she grew pale. There is more. After holding the stone, I thought I could hear a voice. It had no discernible source and seemed almost to have been carried in on the air.
Dark magic?
That is my fear. It is good you came to me, Schuyler. I will need a powerful sorcerer on my side. Aldrich placed a hand on her shoulder as Schuyler's expression became determined. Henry leaned over Bronwyn, pulling her blankets up around her to keep her warm as the temperature in the room dropped with the encroaching night. He turned to Laura, seated nearby. Please shut the window.
Yes, Your Majesty.
She made her way to the window, but stopped short, confused. Is something wrong, Laura?
The window is already shut, Your Highness.
Henry frowned, confused. He was certain the air had grown colder. At any rate, he kissed Bronwyn on the forehead and stroked her hair. He did not notice the slight movements of Bronwyn's eyes underneath her shut lids. She was dreaming.
I entered the dining hall, an act I had done countless times, and yet as I crossed the threshold into the large room, a strange sensation danced in the back of my mind. It was a feeling that I had forgotten something, but to my frustration, the thing itself eluded me. Aldrich sat in his usual place at the table and gestured for me to approach, a warm smile on his face. As I approached, my heart sank. I knew I must ask him about her, the beautiful woman he had brought back from the woods. Again, I had the nagging sense of having forgotten some important details. I pushed the feeling aside.
Hello, my love. Good of you to join me. I was worried you were going to miss the meal completely. Your salmon has gotten cold.
I'm sure it is fine. I took a bite. Whether it was warm or cold, I could not tell. My mind was fully preoccupied with the question I needed to ask. But must I come right out with it? I decided on a less direct approach. Tell me about your week, husband dearest. Has anything of note taken place? I knew in my heart that he would deny it, that he would tell me nothing had happened, that he would betray my trust.
As a matter of fact, it has been rather eventful. An incident occurred while hunting.
I nearly dropped my fork. Something had happened in the woods, after all. I maintained my composure as best I could. Was anyone hurt?
No person was injured.
There was the denial I had been expecting. I decided to push for the truth. Aldrich, I know of the woman. He set down his fork and stared at me with a quizzical expression.
Woman?
The slave woman you rescued from one of your traps. It's all the people in the palace can talk about.
Oh, her.
Aldrich let out a hearty laugh, which took me completely by surprise. How could he find this funny?
I will introduce you.
I had no desire to meet her, but curiosity compelled me to stand and follow Aldrich. We found ourselves outside the stables. Why would Aldrich have kept her out here? Surely there were rooms available in the palace. He pointed to a pen.
She's in there.
I stepped toward the pen, unsure what I might see. Inside, a doe limped on a bandaged leg.
There's your runaway slave girl. My, how servants gossip.
A deer? Did you save a deer?
I had planned to kill her, but I could not bring myself to do it. She was so pitiful. What's more, she seems to be pregnant, so I brought her here to heal.
A wave of relief hit me, the likes of which I had never felt in my entire life. I threw my arms around Aldrich, holding him tight. I thought, perhaps...
Perhaps what? That I had found a beautiful maiden? That she might steal me away? Bronwyn, you know I only have eyes for you. You are my queen, my wife, my love.
He kissed me. How could I have ever been so distrustful? His kisses moved from my lips to my neck. We travelled to Aldrich's room. He made love to me with a raw passion I hadn't experienced since the earliest days of our marriage. Our bodies were completely in sync. We climaxed together, our faces flushed with pleasure. Aldrich kissed my forehead and lay down beside me. He drifted to sleep, but I lay awake in a state of bliss. I became aware of a woman's voice whispering outside the room. I rose and donned a robe, then entered the darkened hallway. I could not see the end of the corridor, which faded into inky blackness. The whispers emanated from there. Come here. The voice sent a chill down the length of my spine. It was familiar. A hand caught my arm. I turned and was face to face with the pale visage of my former lady-in-waiting, Viscountess Verdi. She mouthed words I could not hear, shook her head, and then drifted away and out of sight, pulled by some force beyond her control. "Don't you remember me, sister?" At that moment, I suddenly remembered everything. Aldrich had left me. He had destroyed our life together for... Rose. Rose? A figure approached from the end of the dark hallway. I saw then that the voice wasn't coming from Rose. It was coming from the injured doe. But the creature had undergone some horrifying metamorphosis. As it limped toward me, I saw that its flesh had rotted, revealing skull and bone. It grinned at me. I stood amid some strange dream which had turned into a nightmare. Only moments ago I had been in the arms of the man I once loved, Aldrich. Now I faced an otherworldly creature, a half-rotted doe with the voice of a woman I hated, Rose. The deer turned from me, and I thought with relief that it might leave me in peace, but it glanced back in my direction and called out, "Follow." I wanted nothing more than to run and flee the dreaded beast, but to my horror, my feet carried me onward in its direction. The deer walked slowly, and I soon found myself directly behind it. I gagged at the putrid smell wafting off of its flesh. "There is so much to see, dear sister." "Rose was no sister of mine, and neither are you, whatever you may be." "Were you not discarded by the king, forgotten, left to rot like carrion by the side of the road? We have much in common." "My king loves me." "Your new king? Can you truly know his heart? He will too tire of you. It is the way of men." "Where are you leading me?" "To a place where we might see the approaching storm." In a moment, we were suddenly standing on a balcony. I knew at once it was the very same place from which I had witnessed Marquis Carriage climbing one of those towers. Dark clouds roiled in the sky above, illuminated from below by the orange glow of fires that spread as far as the eye could see. Elasaria was burning. Even from where I stood, I could feel the heat of the flames. "Such a beautiful view." "You show me this to frighten me." "To educate you. What you see before you is Elisaria's future." "It cannot be." "It can be. It will be. She has decreed it." "Who?" The deer lolled its rotting head, and then threw it back in a hideous fit of laughter. "Tell me, beast, who has decreed it?"
Henry entered the infirmary, slowly moving toward the bed where the brave Sir Artemis lay, the knight who had thrown himself into harm's way to save Bronwyn. Though his breathing had steadied and his injuries had begun to heal, he showed no signs of waking. Henry pulled up a chair and sat beside the old knight's bed.
"Hello, Sir Artemis. I was told that, though you are unconscious, you may yet be able to hear me. It is a shame that we have not had much opportunity to get to know one another. There is much I have learned about you in recent days. Your valor and chivalry are beyond compare. People tell me you are also humble, so perhaps you would feel uncomfortable with such high praise.
A small smile crept onto Henry's face. He searched for any sign of understanding from the old man, but his eyes remained closed. Henry continued.
I realized that I had not properly thanked you for saving Bronwyn's life, and for saving the life of our child.
Henry paused, emotion welling up inside him as he again confronted the realization that he had come so close to losing everything.
From the bottom of my heart, I thank you, brave knight. But there is more yet to be done. You were charged with protecting Bronwyn, and though I cannot explain it, I feel she is still in danger. You cannot take on the quest of what lies in the realms beyond. Not yet. Do you hear me, Sir Artemis? Bronwyn needs you here.
For the briefest of moments, Henry thought he saw a flash of movement on the old man's face. He watched for more, but Sir Artemis did not move again.
I will leave you now to rest up and regain your strength. Schuyler will be by soon.
Henry turned at the sound of fast approaching footsteps. It was Haxon.
Haxon, has something happened?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Is Bronwyn all right?
We believe she is all right, but her bed is... You must come and see.
Henry and Haxon raced out of the infirmary. Behind them, in his bed, Sir Artemis's face twitched with life. Henry and Haxon entered Bronwyn's chambers, pushing past her ladies-in-waiting. Henry immediately saw the cause for the commotion. Bronwyn's bedsheets had developed a thin layer of ice, which was quickly spreading to the headboard and baseboard. Frost was visible in the breaths of everyone in the room. A glass of water on Bronwyn's bedside table froze, the fractals inside expanding until the glass shattered.
Out of the room! Everybody out! Now!
At the sound of Henry's booming voice, the ladies-in-waiting, along with Haxon, cleared the room.
Bronwyn.
Henry rushed to her bedside and placed his hands on her shoulders. The cold burned his fingers, but he didn't feel the pain, his worry for Bronwyn overriding any other sensation.
My love, please wake up. Wake up. I am here by your side. I am here for you.
Was this a dream, or something more? It started out at the burning capital before me. A clock tower crumbled, sending a cloud of embers drifting up into the sky.
I am here for you.
Did you hear that? Though the expression on the half-rotted deer was inscrutable, I thought I could sense its annoyance at the distant voice. That is of no consequence.
Bronwyn!
Henry? Henry! I said it is of no consequence. The putrid creature lunged toward me, sending me toppling over the banister and plummeting toward the scorched earth beneath the balcony. But instead of colliding with the ground in front of the palace, I landed on soft foliage. As I stood and looked around, I realized I was in the middle of a dark forest. Henry? I called out but received no response. I strained my ears listening for his voice, but he was gone. The only sound that met me was the wind rustling through the leaves and the creaking of old branches. Soon, the deer was by my side again.
She is waiting.
Who? Tell me. But the vile thing would not answer. As we walked, the world around us grew darker, as though we were venturing into the black heart of the forest. I thought I saw something on the deer's back that had not been there before. The longer I stared, the more I felt like what I saw was a small child's form. What is that thing astride your back? Again, the deer ignored my question. A branch snapped on the other side of me. I turned and saw a woman walking a short distance away. She was heading in the same direction as us. Could it be Rose? Rose? She continued her silent march alongside us, without so much as turning to look at me. Finally, we were approaching a clearing. Dim points of blue light appeared around the edge of the space. I soon saw that these lights were in fact the glowing eyes of many creatures watching us. On my right, Rose dropped to the ground, bowing low enough for her face to touch the ground. On my left, the deer also bowed its head. The child on its back was gone, if it had indeed been a child. Before us, the darkness coalesced into a lithe human form. The very little ambient light existed in the forest behind the figure. The form was, nevertheless, visible, because it represented a total absence of light. This being was made of a material darker than any black I had ever seen. Who are you?
Before you know who I am, you must first know what I have to offer.
I do not want it.
You do not want safety. You do not want security.
Is that what you're offering me?
This and more. I can bring you with me as we unmake the world and rebuild it to our liking. You would no longer be a queen subservient to a king, forced to follow in the shadows of those who are lesser than you, less wise, less caring, less deserving.
My eyes fluttered open, a sharp intake of breath escaping my lips as the remnants of nightmares clung to my consciousness. Panic gripped me, and I frantically scanned the room. This bed, this room. I touched my arm. This felt real. Was this real?
Bronwyn?
Henry. Henry sat beside my bed, and I felt my heart skip a beat. As my eyes found his, the fear reflected in them struck me like a bolt of lightning.
Bronwyn.
Relief washed over me as he reached for my trembling hand. I gripped his fingers tightly, seeking solace in the warmth of his touch. Henry, we are not safe. Henry brushed a gentle kiss on my forehead, his voice choked with emotion.
You're awake, my love. That's all that matters. You are safe now. And I will spend the rest of my life avenging you.
No, you don't understand. My dreams, they were not just dreams.
What do you mean?
I stood in the heart of Elisaria, but it was different, corrupted. A once majestic deer, now rotting, stood at the city's entrance. A rose draped in the shadows. She warned me of the coming death. I could hear my voice trembling. My throat was aching from the use of my voice. How long had it been since I had spoken?
My love, you are in shock.
She was a queen. An evil, horrendous queen, and she is plotting, Henry. The future of Elisaria, perhaps even the world, is in terrible danger.
Bronwyn, these dreams, they might be products of your troubled mind. You were attacked. We'll ensure Elisaria's safety. But first, let me revel in the joy of having you back.
I was torn between the weight of my premonitions and the comfort of Henry's presence. I searched his face for assurance, but found none. How could he be so nonchalant about what I was telling him? I began shaking and crying. Henry, we are not safe! Desperation clawed at me, urging me to convey the urgency of my visions. I tried to sit up, but weakness held me captive. Henry, I need to warn the people, anyone. The shadows, the rotting deer, Rose, they're all connected. Elisaria is in danger. He put his hand on my arm and gently restrained me.
Bronwyn, please, you're still weak.
My voice trembled with frustration as I fought against my frailty. I needed him to understand, to believe. I can't just lie here. The kingdom is at stake. We need to do something.
Bronwyn, you need rest. We will take all necessary measures to ensure Elisaria's safety. Your strength will return.
Tears streamed down my face as my attempts to rise proved futile. The weight of my foreboding visions clashed with the reassurance Henry attempted to provide. Henry, please. The darkness is real. We must act before it's too late. The shadows clung to every corner, twisting the familiar into something grotesque. I walked through the city, but it wasn't the Elisaria I knew. Henry listened, his concern deepening, but a flicker of skepticism danced in his eyes. He moved his hand protectively over my abdomen, a subtle reminder of the life growing within me.
Bronwyn, my love, these dreams, you will forget them soon. I will send for the palace doctor. You are awake, but you are not recovered.
My gaze, intense and unwavering, met Henry's. They were real, Henry. We can't dismiss them. The kingdom is in peril.
We'll take precautions, love. Consult the seers and strengthen our defenses. But let's not lose ourselves to the darkness before it arrives.
Baron Lant exchanged hushed words with a guard in the dim-lit dungeon, their intentions veiled in shadows. Confined to her cell, Rose listened intently, straining to hear their conversation.
There are paths, my good man, to your prosperity.
Paths to what, Baron?
Paths paved with gold, coins flowing from the royal coffers into hands like yours, a purse filled to the brim with wealth, for just some small favors.
And what would these favors be?
Nothing too taxing, my dear man. Just ensure that I enjoy a bit of comfort, maybe loosen the chains a tad, or provide me with a meal that befits my station, vouch for my good behavior and early release.
And the gold?
To be delivered upon the successful completion of your duties.
Rose was overcome with jealousy. How had Baron Lant manipulated this man so easily, simply with the promise of wealth? Doing the same thing had landed her in this cell. She began to panic, realizing that she needed the guards on her side as well, in order to complete her and Reginald's plan. How would they escape without the keys to their prisons?
Turn the key.
Rosa's hand began vibrating, and she looked down at her precious doll and noticed its eyes glowing green. She was sure it had just spoken.
You will listen.
Do you speak? Am I mad?
I offer you life.
Rosa's instinct was to scoff, but looking into the doll's green eyes, she was mesmerized.
Do as I say. Do as you say. The shadows await. We will ensnare both the minds and wills of men.
Before Rose could ask what the doll meant, she found herself repeating words the doll was feeding into her mind.
Whispers deep, shadows near. In the dark we have no fear. Twist their thoughts, dance the part. A puppet queen with the shadows heart.
Like a sinister melody, the incantation wove through the air, tendrils reaching Baron Lant and the guard. Rose watched their bodies stiffen and their faces become blank.
A pact in shadows, sweet and deep, like the abyss where secrets sleep.
In shadows and secrets we conspire. In Elysaria we fight with fire.
The guard stood entranced, his gaze locked on Rose.
Now you'll heed me. Dance to my rhyme. Puppets entwined beneath the shadows chime.
The atmosphere crackled with dark energy as Rose's command took root. The incantation had worked its dark magic, casting a spell that dulled the men's awareness and kindled a peculiar thirst for her commands. The effect was palpable. Baron Lant's face had transformed into a vacant stare, and the guard's eager demeanor now masked a trance-like gaze. Once filled with the muffled sounds of chains and despair, the dungeon became an arena of silent anticipation. They awaited their puppeteer's bidding.
Their minds, like clay, are now yours to mold.
Count Perdue approached Aldrich, who sat by the window, fixated on the painting of Bronwyn.
Your Majesty, I bring news from the healers. Queen Bronwyn has awakened. She will make a full recovery.
She's awake?
Yes, sire. The healers are amazed at her resilience.
Thank the heavens. Thank every deity in existence.
With a gentle smile, Count Perdue understood the complex emotions that engulfed Aldrich's heart.
It seems your prayers have been answered, sire.
I never thought I'd hear those words. Not after everything I've done.
Your Majesty, Queen Bronwyn mentioned strange visions. She believes Elysaria is in danger.
Visions of what?
She spoke of a rotting deer at the city's entrance, a shadowed woman guiding her, and an evil queen plotting. Sire, she's genuinely troubled by these dreams.
Aldrich took a moment to take this in, and nodded slowly.
We'll strengthen our defenses. Prepare for any threat.
Sire, they seem to think her mental prowess has not quite returned. No one is taking these visions seriously. They were nothing but dreams, Your Majesty.
Do not dismiss Bronwyn. She does not do anything without intention, even unconsciously. I'll personally see to her safety. Arrange a meeting with the court sorcerer. We need to respect these visions.
As you command, Your Majesty.
Count Perdue bowed and exited the room, leaving Aldrich alone with his thoughts. He turned to his precious painting.
I have put you through so much. I'll ensure your safety, no matter the cost. These visions you've had, I won't dismiss them. Elysaria will be protected, and so will you. I swear it.
Aldrich's gaze lingered on the painting, and a profound sense of determination settled within him. The weight of his responsibilities as a king intertwined with the yearning for the woman he loved, and he felt as though he had a final chance to prove he was worthy of both his country and the woman whom he never should have left behind. Oscar, usually the embodiment of joviality, wit, and strength, sat on the stump of a tree in the Celestial Isles gardens, shoulders slumped, tears streaming down his face. The news of his sister Bronwyn's coma had hit him hard, and the relief of her recovery mingled with the lingering worry that was taking over his mind, body, and soul. Charlotte approached him, attempting a half-hearted smile, but visibly uncomfortable with Oscar's tears.
Really, Oscar? Crying like a child. You're in the gardens, people might see.
Charlotte, I almost lost my sister. Show some decency.
She rolled her eyes.
Decency? You have appearances to keep in mind.
I don't give a damn about appearances right now.
She's safe now. There is nothing to cry about.
Have you no heart?
She came over and patted Oscar gently on the shoulder.
There are more appropriate ways to handle those feelings.
Oscar nodded, the realization washing over him that this, perhaps, was the best Charlotte could do. A princess who had grown up in nobility, faced very little hardship, and had never been on the front lines of grief or loss. How could she know what he needed?
You're right, Charlotte. If you'll excuse me, I'd like to be alone.
He got up and walked off towards the castle.
Shall we dine together this evening?
He pretended he couldn't hear her and walked on. He continued on through the corridors, headed nowhere in particular. The air carried the fragrance of blossoming flowers, but his heart remained heavy. He looked up and saw that he was walking directly towards Cedrica, who was sitting on a bench in the hallway, eyes welled with tears.
Cedrica? Are you all right?
She met his gaze with a raw sincerity that resonated with Oscar's pain.
I heard about Bronwyn.
She's a tough one, my sister. She'll pull through.
I should have been there. I should have saved her.
No. You are right where you're supposed to be.
Oscar felt a surge of gratitude for Cedrica's unfiltered honesty. In that vulnerable moment, their eyes locked, and he impulsively leaned in, capturing her lips in a tender kiss.
I sat in my bedroom, staring at the gardens, my hand gently resting on my stomach. A day had passed since I awoke, and with each passing moment, strength returned to me. It felt like I had emerged from a long sleep, not just a respite from my injury, but a revelation of what lay ahead. Fate seemed to have orchestrated the slumber, unveiling a prophecy instead of a mere figment of my imagination. Your Majesty. Yes, Matilda. A letter arrived for you. Leave it on my desk. My thoughts are occupied with more than letters. It's from the king. Henry. I glanced at her, and she shook her head. This was from Aldrich. Very well. Opening the letter, I found the familiar lilt of Aldrich's handwriting. Nostalgia washed over me, memories of our joint learning to write and echoing with each pen stroke.
Because you are awake, my days have meaning. I need you well. Elasaria needs you well. I am told you sense danger is afoot. I sense it too. Dreams and visions carry very different meanings. You are my dream. An ill-fated Elasaria is a vision. We must discern the difference.
I read his words repeatedly, struck by his sentiments, sincerity, honesty, and resonance. My mind wandered back to the tender moments within my prolonged slumber, where Aldrich and I shared intimacy. Were those instances visions or dreams? Had Aldrich truly transformed? Why were we the only ones sensing the impending doom? Deep in my heart, I realized that I had never truly departed from Elisaria. No one knew how to protect me better than Aldrich. Matilda, fetch me a quill and parchment, please. I anticipated you might need them. With a sly smile, she handed the items to me. Grateful for her foresight, I leaned on the windowsill, ready to pen my response. Aldrich, your words bring warmth to my recovering spirit. It is both a solace and a challenge to comprehend the intricacies of dreams and visions. I sense an urgency in your writing. I recognize this urgency. Let us decipher the tapestry that unfolds before us, and stand united to safeguard our kingdom. I continued on, the words flowing effortlessly, as if I were talking to an old friend. I was, wasn't I?
Skylar paced the room with restless energy, frustration nearly taking over her body. Kaya, seated on the bed, watched her with a mix of curiosity and concern. They had begun to enjoy spending time together. Skylar had many books, and Kaya had not grown up with such a privilege. As a girl, she had snuck out to libraries and taught herself to read, and she always thought of novels as an underappreciated luxury. She and Skylar would sit and talk for hours, or she would just sit on her bed while Skylar practiced her sorcery and read. It was a friendship they had both begun to cherish.
Skylar, what's eating at you? You're usually more collected.
Skylar stopped, her eyes burning with a fiery resolve as she turned to Kaya.
The veiled hands. That's what's wrong, Kaya. Those rogue thugs think they can dismantle everything we've built in Elisaria.
Kaya furrowed her brow, sensing the weight of Skylar's words.
The veiled hands? What have they done now? Everything. They're threatening the very foundation of Elisaria. I didn't endure all my hardship, all of my pain, just to watch masked marauders tear down the one place that vowed to protect me.
Kaya rose, stepping closer to Skylar, understanding the depth of her anger.
Skylar, you've been through so much. We won't let them win, we won't. No, we won't. Aldrich believes I can make a difference, and I won't let the veiled hands destroy everything we hold dear. I must find them out.
Kaya nodded in solidarity, ready to stand with Skylar against the encroaching darkness.
I have connections among the commoners. I can gather information discreetly. Kaya, I don't want to put you in danger. The veiled hands are ruthless.
Kaya reached out, gently touching Skylar's arm. She smiled tenderly.
Skylar, we've faced danger before, and I'm not doing this just for Elisaria. I'm doing it for you.
Skylar's heart skipped a beat, the sincerity in Kaya's eyes sparking warmth.
Kaya.
Kaya stepped closer to her.
I've spent too long being a victim, Skylar. It's time for me to be a hero for Elisaria, and for you.
Their eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between them. Skylar felt a surge of conflicting emotions, the weight of responsibility, the thrill of rebellion, and the warmth of burgeoning feelings for Kaya.
You're more than a hero to me, Kaya. Then let's face them together. For us.
As they shared a determined nod, Skylar couldn't contain the intensity of her emotions any longer. In a moment that felt like an eternity, she closed the gap between them, capturing Kaya's lips in a passionate kiss. Once filled with tension, The room now brimmed with the gentle cadence of their shared feelings. Their soft yet profound kiss echoed the unspoken connection that had been growing between them. Skylar's hand found its way to the back of Kaya's neck, fingers gently threading through her hair. Kaya reciprocated the gesture, her touch reassuring against the uncertainties ahead.
For Alisaria, and for us.
Their lips parted, but the closeness remained. In that stolen moment, the weight of their shared mission felt a little lighter.
For Alisaria.
Kaya moved closer to Skylar once again, and their lips met. Their kiss lasted longer this time, and Kaya put more pressure on Skylar as they inched closer and closer to the bed. Skylar fell backward onto it, and Kaya lay down on top of her.
And for you.
The sun's vibrant rays shone across the colorful blooms and manicured hedges of the Elisarian gardens. Henry, with a determined stride, approached Haxon, who was enjoying his tea amidst the serenity of the palace gardens.
Haxon?
Haxon turned to face the king, his expression composed, masking the complexities beneath.
Your Majesty?
The air between them was filled with unspoken tension, and Henry, fueled by suspicions, cut straight to the heart of the matter.
You were present when I spoke with Duke Elegy. I saw you in the moonlight. I may not have been able to outrun you, but I would recognize the silver glint of those feathers anywhere.
Haxon's eyes met Henry's, and although his heartbeat quickened, he did his best to keep his composure.
Your Majesty, I assure you.
Henry interrupted, his tone becoming more explicit, his words laced with a veiled threat.
Don't play games with me, Haxon. I know you heard. I can sense the deceit in your very breath.
Your Majesty, I assure you, I heard nothing.
Haxon, I know when a liar is afoot. You don't even know the meaning behind the secret you think you're keeping. If you were honest with me, I could fill you in. You wouldn't have to lie any longer.
Haxon's eye twitched with his inner conflict, but he knew that Henry could be dangerous. He respected his king and cousin, but was not entirely sure he trusted him. Haxon was not ready to show the hand he was playing just yet.
You're mistaken.
Henry took a step forward and spoke through his teeth.
Do you think of me as a simple-minded king who would not think twice about sending those who threaten the Celestial Isles to their death? Haxon?
Haxon began hyperventilating, seemingly overcome with distraught and distraction. Somehow, Henry knew that this reaction was not to his threats.
Speak to me. What is happening? I am your cousin. You can trust me.
I remember.
You remember what? Elegy and I.
Haxon turned to look at Henry, his eyes frantic and frenzied.
No, Aldrich.
What are you talking about?
All that time, when I was stuck in that cage, something happened.
He began gasping for breath.
I knew it.
If you don't spit out your truth, I will have you committed to the nearest asylum.
The thing I saw when I was trapped here, in that cage, the thing I could not remember. It was Aldrich, his closest aide, Marquis Carlson. He murdered him. He murdered him in front of me. They disposed of his body to cover his madness. He has become dangerous.
Are you sure?
I have never been more sure.
I knew he was not fit for a position of power. The people must know.
The soft glow of candlelight lit Aldrich's study as he opened the letter from Bronwyn, the emblem of Elisaria stamped upon it. The subtle scent of ink and parchment filled the air. He traced his fingers over the intricate curves of Bronwyn's handwriting. The words held not only the weight of ink on parchment, but the echoes of shared memories and the promise of a future entwined. His gaze lingered on her words, each line a bridge between the realms of the past and the potential of their shared future. In the quietude of the study, Aldrich found himself transported to moments when their destinies intertwined.
Aldrich, these dreams, these visions, bind us to something terrifying. If we don't act, Elisaria will fall.
Aldrich allowed himself a moment to consider the paths of Elisaria's fate, and whether maybe, just maybe, he and Bronwyn could once again find each other on one of them. Grand Duke Bjorn sat at the desk in his room, writing. He paused a moment, contemplating his string of recent failures. There was, of course, the mistake he'd made by drinking the potion, which had enhanced his feelings for Bronwyn. The love he felt for her now might be incurable. Next was the matter of the servant who had witnessed the ice magic incident with Queen Bronwyn. Despite his efforts, he had never tracked down the servant in question. And finally, there was Marquis Kerridge's slanderous letter, a propaganda weapon that forever tarnished Henry's reputation with the masses. Bjorn had been too late in discovering the printing house where the letter was mass-produced and sent out. He was now in the middle of drafting a farewell message to Bronwyn. He planned to depart the Celestial Isles that very evening. Someone knocked at the Grand Duke's door. "Come in." A servant woman entered, carrying a folded parchment.
This came for you, Your Grace.
The Grand Duke examined the parchment as the servant slipped out of the room. Bjorn recognized the insignia on the wax seal at once. A letter from Rhett. Grand Duke Bjorn, we are writing to you regarding an urgent matter. It has come to our attention that an artifact of great importance has... Bjorn paused, struggling to believe what he was reading. He shook off his shock and pressed on. That an artifact of great importance has gone missing. The item in question has gone by many names and has no discernible country of origin. It is most commonly called the Dark Crown. A look of vague recognition crossed the Grand Duke's face. Yes, I have heard of this crown, but do not know much about it. I must research the matter. He read further. The place it has occupied in our archives for centuries now stands empty. Though we do not know the exact time of the disappearance, we believe it coincided with a visit from a diplomat claiming to be from the Celestial Isles.
We have since verified that the diplomat in question was a fraud, utilizing forged paperwork.
Bjorn slammed his desk in frustration.
Fools! How could they have allowed themselves to be tricked by simple forgery?
He straightened the paper again.
As you may have surmised, we suspect the artifact was stolen by this individual, whose true identity remains unknown. Given your presence in the Celestial Isles, we humbly ask that you watch and listen for any word of the crown. We feel it is most likely the thief will try to sell it, unaware of its true value.
Bjorn chuckled bitterly.
These archivists may well be our preservers of knowledge, but they know so little. If a thief wanted an item to sell on the black market, there is no shortage of artifacts in our vaults they could have taken. Why take only one? Why take something so specific and so recognizable? Surely they realized they would be caught if they tried to sell it. No. This thief wants the crown for some greater purpose. But what?
The Grand Duke stood and stomped toward the door.
I must learn more about this so-called Dark Crown.
Oscar and Cedrica rode their horses through the city, beginning their long journey to Elisaria. Oscar's mind swirled with concerns for his sister. Cedrica glanced over, noticing the worry on his face.
She'll be all right.
I should have been there.
You cannot have prevented what happened, and you know Ela. She's in good hands there.
Perhaps there is some way I could have helped her.
But you could have helped her. The information we gathered about the internal Thousand Bandits is crucial. When she's well, I know she'll be grateful.
Oscar nodded. She was right. He was where he needed to be. Cedrica turned her eyes forward. Though she was no longer looking at him, he observed her for a few moments more. Beams of afternoon light played across her features. He remembered their kiss. Seeing her now, her strong form astride her steed, caused a desire to spark and burn within him. He wanted her more than he had wanted any woman before. Oscar snapped out of his brief reverie as he and Cedrica approached a shouting crowd. People held signs and banners with messages like, "Henry is a tyrant," and "Down with the false king." Oscar spotted a flag that displayed unflattering depictions of Henry and Bronwyn covered in blood. Written in red on the flag was the word, "Murderers." Oscar scowled, his blood boiling. His hand went to his sword, but Cedrica drove her horse between him and the gathered people.
Will you battle this entire crowd?
They insult Bronwyn!
And if a brother were to cut down a group of commoners, what would they say then? Let the city guards handle them. We must press on.
Oscar fumed, but relented. Once again, Cedrica had proved to possess the more level head. They rode on. Before they were out of sight of the crowd, Oscar saw Cedrica glance back at the flag with Bronwyn's bloody image once more. She tensed up, her face red with anger, but she said nothing. Before long, they were outside the city, and the two knights urged their horses to pick up the pace.
After days spent bedridden, I felt restless. I tossed and turned, wanting to get up and wander the palace, but I knew I should gather my strength. I was also fearful of falling back to sleep, worried that I might again see the horrid face of that rotting deer, or that dark form in the forest. I felt a hand rest on my arm and opened my eyes. Henry was sitting beside the bed.
You needn't try and force sleep. If you do that, it will never come.
I do not know that I ever want to sleep again.
The nightmare, terrifying though it may have been, is not likely to repeat itself.
I frowned at the word nightmare. If only I could believe, as he did, what I had witnessed was pure imagination. Let us not speak of it.
All right.
Henry's hand, which had been resting on my arm, now began to caress it.
We could always turn our attention to other things.
His hand moved beneath the sheets, down the length of my body, stopping at my inner thigh.
Activities that do not require you to leave the bed.
His hand moved up my thigh between my legs. As he touched me, I moaned softly and pulled him into a deep kiss. He hurriedly disrobed, and soon we were together beneath the covers. His warmth felt good on my skin, which had been cold since my dream. He nibbled my ear and kissed my neck. My hands gripped his strong back. Our lips met as we kissed again and again, but when he pulled away, it wasn't Henry that I saw. It was Aldrich. I stiffened and sat up. I blinked, and the trick my mind had played on me went away as quickly as it had appeared. Henry stared at me with alarm.
Oh, no. Have I hurt you?
No, I'm fine.
You do not seem it.
Perhaps it is too soon.
Of course, I acted impulsively. I am sorry, my queen.
He leaned in to kiss me, and before I knew what I was doing, I turned my face to the side so that he kissed my cheek. My face flushed with embarrassment and confusion. Why had I done that? The hurt in Henry's eyes compounded my inner turmoil. He donned his clothes and stood.
I shall go out to the garden and pick you a nice flower. Would you like me to send your ladies-in-waiting?
No, I think I'm tired now. I will rest. Henry nodded and departed. I covered my face, distraught. Why had I seen Aldrich's face? The face of a man who had betrayed me and broken my heart in this very palace.
Aldrich sat at his desk, turning over in his hands the strange metal box that Elegy had gifted him. Before him sat the court sorcerer, looking befuddled. Aldrich held the object closer to the sorcerer.
I cannot find any means of opening the damned thing. No seams, no locks, no latches. Perhaps it is not meant to be opened. Well, I doubt it is intended to weigh down the papers on my desk merely. Your Majesty, allow me to clarify. When it comes to magical objects, there are those we may open at our will, and those that open at their will. So, it is magical, then. Indeed, it seems to me that this object is designed to open when certain conditions are met. Is there no way to open it now? Your Highness, this spellcraft is not my area of expertise. Dean Edgar at the Academy has a knack for protective magic. I am certain he could open it.
Aldrich scoffed and sank into his chair.
Dean Edgar has gone missing. Oh my. Could there have been some accident? We think he was attacked. Attacked? Edgar is among the most skilled sorcerers alive today. Who would dare go after him?
Aldrich stared at the mage with a grave expression. Someone powerful enough to defeat him.